I really enjoyed learning this new skill. I am a crafty person, so I was very excited to learn to crochet a scarf. But I will admit, learning to start a scarf was a little tricky and it took me a couple of tries to get it. Also, I didn't realize how hard it was to crochet as a beginner and not knowing anything about crocheting. But I also didn't realize how much patience it took to crochet. The classification of this skill is closed skill and continuous skill. This skill is a closed skill because my environment was stable and predictable. The crochet pattern I used was repeat the same pattern beginning to end, and the motion was the same. It is a continuous skill because it's the same movement for a long period of time. The goal for my new skill project was to work on my scarf 4 times a week for 4 weeks, to fully complete the scarf and make it the length of 100 centimeters. I wish I could say that I stuck to these goals, but I can't. I ended up crocheting 2 times a week for 6 weeks, and the length ended up being 182 centimeters, but I was able to fully complete the scarf. The approach I took was I first went to the store to get everything I needed. Then I watched a YouTube video for crocheting a scarf a couple of times until I understood the steps. Then I started to crochet the scarf. The first couple of layers were hard for me to get, so I had to retry it a couple of times. But after those first few layers, I got the hang of it. At the beginning of my crocheting, I had to count how many loops I made to make the width of the scarf. The scarf pattern was a repeat pattern, so I got pretty used to the pattern and motions that was needed to crochet the scarf. I structured my practice at least 4 hours a week. Sometimes I would crochet more, just depending on the week. A transfer skill that helped me learn to crochet is drawing and painting. This is because drawing and painting you need to have a steady hand, and that's also something I needed to learn to crochet. Another transfer skill that helped me learn to crochet is I used to sew. This helped me because with sewing you use a needle and thread, kind of like crocheting with a crochet needle and a ball of yarn. For Fit's perspective on learning this task is by first figuring out what I wanted to learn, and I wanted to learn to crochet, and then watching the YouTube video and figure out how to crochet. Then I learned to crochet the pattern for the scarf. Finally, the test that got to the point where I didn't need as much attention and did it at the beginning. This is because I know the pattern and don't have to think about it as much. Now, Bernstein's perspective on learning this task is first freezing the degrees of freedom, so just using my fingers to crochet. To release the degrees of freedom, I would be able to use my wrists and arms into the movement of crocheting. Adding those movements would make crocheting go by faster. The exploit passive dynamics would be gravity helping me to make it, because it was easier to crochet with a scarf dangling in front of me.